Hello.
In the previous video lesson, we considered the US balance of payment in 2009 following the textbook example taken from Krugman et al. So in this one, I then take a little bit more contemporary perspective and the small country of Finland. So here is a diagram I uploaded from Statistics Finland database that illustrates the development of exports and imports and the current account as a percentage of the GDP from the first quarter of 2006 till to the second quarter of 2024. So these are a bit more recent statistics. And We see that in Finland, the current account has been relatively balanced over the past few decades. Even though there was this like major global shock from the financial crisis in 2008, we see that it had relatively modest impact on Finland's imports and exports. So there's curves of the gray curve is exports and the orange-red curve is imports. They move fairly much hand in hand. And even the recently occurring invasion of Russia to Ukraine, it still didn't affect Finland very much. So there was this kind of modest increase in the imports and exports just before the war. And maybe this kind of decline in the last few quarters is related to this war in Ukraine and the resulting energy crisis in Europe. But still, the Finland's exports and import, at least in percentage terms, has been fluctuating fairly close to the 40% throughout this time period. So it's of course possible that there is also the level of GDP was affected by this financial crisis and the war in Ukraine. But percentage-wise, then this share of imports and exports of the GDP has been relatively stable and somewhere around 40% in some years, even 50%. So this indicates that, of course, that how important the world trade is for a small open economy such as Finland. And also if you look at the blue curve, which is the current account, so current account has been also relatively balanced in the longer term. So there is some surplus in the earlier years of this period, some quarters, some deficit, but notice that also the current account fluctuates quite a lot in this kind of quarterly statistics. And this kind of fluctuations cancel out, of course, when we look at, for example, yearly statistics. So in the next slide, I then also consider for Finland this current account versus financial account, and then the difference between those two is this net errors and omissions. So this is also similarly for years 2006 to 2024, but this is now at the yearly level. So this kind of quarterly fluctuations should be more or less canceling out. And we see that this in this period, the blue color line is current account balance, red is the financial account balance. So almost all of the years, the financial account balance has been somewhat smaller than the current account balance. So there seems to be some kind of systematic downward bias, so that the net errors and omissions tend to be negative more often than positive. There's only 2 years when in this time period when the net errors and emissions was actually slightly positive, but they are relatively large values of negative also. So on the bottom of the diagram I took from the textbook, that because data from different sources may differ in coverage, accuracy, and timing, the balance of payments account seldom balance in practice. as they should balance in theory. So the timing issue I already mentioned, but of course in the long term, timing cannot explain this kind of systematic negative values of the net errors and omissions. So most likely the explanation relates to the coverage. So I have read that regarding the coverage, that one source of this net errors and omissions could be the large multinational companies. So some of the within firm transactions and international operations are not really captured. So in my impression, it's something that the financial account doesn't necessarily capture, this kind of multinationals transactions within the company, as well as the current account may be doing. And this could explain this kind of systematic gap between these two accounts in the balance of payments. So in the next video lesson, I will then discuss current account deficits and what is wrong with the current account deficit, particularly in small nations, and why the USA, on the other hand, can run a rather persistent current account deficit. See you then.